All right, we're going to continue in our series. This is a very unusual service, and you'll find out why in a minute. We're in this series called A Taste of the Good Life. I think we're like 7 weeks in, and we have 2 more weeks to go, this weekend and next weekend. We have been doing a tasting menu of aspects of what many would call the good life. I think it's the good life. We have looked at freedom and fruitfulness and a good name and having an impact in this world and joy and success and meaningful relationships. These are all aspects that I think just about anybody would say, that's a good life. But also in these last 7 weeks, and we will tonight and next week, this weekend as well, we will see that there are practices that we need to engage in if we want to taste these aspects of the good life. So this weekend, the aspect of the good life we're going to taste is exploring your destiny, your future. Your destiny is that unique part you will play in this world that will leave a legacy. Another way to describe it is your calling. Back in the 1940s and 50s, a psychologist, Abraham Maslow, came up with what he called the hierarchy of needs. And at the very top of his hierarchy of needs that he believed every human being needed to experience is what he called self-actualization. It was a fancy word to describe destiny or calling. He said this: what a person can be, they must be. So if you can figure out what you can be, if you can figure out what your calling is or your destiny in this world, you must be that. And once you taste it, once you experience it, you don't want anything else because you step into why you were created in this world. The Apostle Paul actually implied this when he said, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. There is something out there I am pressing toward. My destiny, my calling. We're going to taste that this weekend. The question is, though, how do you discover your calling? Well, you discover it by taking the time to pursue it, to ask questions about it, to pursue your calling, and there's a way to discover it. And I'm going to tell you how to discover it, but I'm not going to do it with a sermon. This is where it's going to get really unusual, okay? Actually, when I step away from here, I'm not going to talk to you the rest of the time till the very end. I'm actually going to have a conversation with somebody. We're going to do a live counseling session on stage. This person, and there's 4 different people. We're not repeating this. It'll be a different person every hour this weekend. I'm going to interview as if I sat down in my office and have a conversation. And by the way, this is a common conversation I have with people. People frequently want to know, what's my calling? What's my destiny? So I've had it over lunch times and over coffee and in my office. So basically that's going to happen. Now, I'll tell you, normally that takes a lot longer than 30 minutes. So it's going to feel a little bit rushed, but hopefully at the end of our time, you will have a better idea of how to taste the good life of knowing your calling. So this hour, would you welcome the person who is very brave to let me do this in front of all these people? Would you welcome Josh Hedges? All right, Josh. There's no one else watching.
I'm down.
All right. Do you want to know your calling?
The simple answer is absolutely yes. And the other part of it is, there's part of this that I have a good sense of understanding what my calling is.
Okay. But do you spend much time thinking about this?
I would say I spend a significant amount of time thinking about this.
Okay. So what I'm hoping is going to happen in the next few minutes that we're together is I'm going to give you some tools. We're not going to get to the end of our time here and you're going to say, oh, okay, that's my calling. Instead, I'm hoping that in about 30 minutes that we're together, you'll have a framework that you can sit down. You can do this at any time. All right? So, but let me just start with 6 words. I want to define 6 crucial words that I think are really important. And the first word is job. All right, your job, what is your job, by the way?
As far as my occupation, I co-own a commercial cleaning company.
Okay, a commercial cleaning company. So that is your job. It's how you bring home
The bacon.
the bacon. It's how you provide for your family. Family. We should get that clarified too. All right, here we go. You're married.
Yes.
Your wife?
My wife, my darling, lovely lady, as I like to call her,
Okay.
Erin, and we've been married for almost 7 years.
Okay. Children?
One baby on the way in September.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pay no attention to the people
That's
that are
right,
watching
that's
you
right.
right now.
That's right.
Okay, job is, now, would you agree with me that a job is not your calling?
I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
So it doesn't mean that it doesn't play very heavily into
Right.
your calling.
Right.
It might well, but it is not your calling, and neither is the second word, and that's career. Why am I using caps on that one and not on this? I don't know. Career. A career is a succession of jobs that start to form a direction. Now, you're a young man. How old are you?
34.
Okay, yes, you're a young man. I don't even know if you could say that you have a career yet. But if you did, would you be able to articulate what it is?
As far as on the career side of things, I would say entrepreneur. I mean,
Entrepreneur.
That's what
Okay.
I absolutely love doing.
Yeah, so some people can say their career is in construction, business, education, law, social work, sales, whatever. Okay. So now, I'm going to suggest to you that this is where most people think, if I can figure out what my career is, that's my calling. Now, I don't want to diminish jobs and careers because God said, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's your calling. A career and a job is too small a vision to say that's my calling. Okay? Now, again, I'll say it again. A job and career may play into your calling. Let's go to another word, and that's role. Role is the part we play in other people's lives. You are a husband. You soon will be a father. What other roles do you play?
I'm a leader.
Okay, you're a leader of?
I'm a leader for my family. I'm a leader for my team, my company.
How many people work for you?
Let's see. The first of next month, I'll have 30 team members.
So you're a boss, you're a father, you're a son of someone, you are a neighbor to someone. Okay. A role is a part we play in other people's lives. It is too small to say that's your calling, too. This, it's too small thing. A job is too small, although it's crucial to figure out in your calling. A career is too small, and so is a role. Let me throw another word here, and maybe this is a word that you know what an avocation is? Another way to say it's hobby. Avocation is not your vocation, but it's something that you spend. It gives you joy. It's something that you invest in leisure. It can be important because it reveals. Do you have an avocation?
The current one, if I may, would be personal development and personal growth.
That's fun.
I think it is immensely fun.
Okay. Now, you also play bass.
That's true.
You play bass in a band. Is that fun?
Yes, that's fun.
Okay. Any other avocations?
So what I tend to do is I guess the answer is I have a list, but I tend to pick one thing and focus on mastering it and move to the next. So I could run down the list of other things that I'm into, but...
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes because of the personality test you did. I could have predicted that you've probably had a bunch of hobbies in your life, right? You master it, you move on, you get another one. Okay. Now, let me stop right here for a second. Most people, once they figure out their job, their career, and their role, and even their avocation, they stop there. And I would ask them, what's your calling? They would describe some sort of mix of those. Okay? So it would sound like their job, their career, their role, their hobby, or their passion. People can go their whole lives and be just fine, and they can die and go on to glory only with those things. I'm going to suggest to you that's not enough.
Okay.
That the good life also exists in figuring out, well, let me put it up here, this next word. Calling. Now, a calling this is what separates it from job, career, role. A calling is an invitation. It's this. It's a summons. It's a beckoning. Mm-hmm. And really, there's only one individual that's big enough to actually summons you to something bigger than your job, your career, role, and avocation. That's God himself. A calling, in my definition, is always God-initiated and always focused on God's kingdom purposes. Josh, how long have you been at Grace?
4 years.
Okay. And you've probably heard me refer to this verse a billion times, and that is, you are God's workmanship or masterpiece. Mm-hmm. Your wife would agree you're quite a masterpiece, right? You're a masterpiece created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Those good works, before you were born, God knew what your calling was going to be. He predetermined the way he was going to wire you, the way he was going to focus you, so that you could step into this thing or a series of things he wanted you to do that would benefit his kingdom purposes. So that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of our time, your calling. But I want to add one more word. This is kind of new. I'm kind of rolling. This is just between us, okay?
Alrighty.
So I'm going to roll this out. I'm experimenting with something here with just you and me, okay? Mm-hmm. Destiny.
Yeah.
I think a destiny is your final calling. Or it is the composite of your callings. And I'm going to suggest, and this may be bad news or good news to you, but for me it's good news, and that is I don't think people really discover their destiny until you're about my age. Okay, I think it takes decades of working out your calling to eventually. Bobby Clinton, in his book, which if you're interested in this, Making of a Leader, you should write this down, Making of a Leader by Bobby Clinton. I think you would geek out to this. He says that we all reach a point, I call it destiny, he calls it convergence. All right, this is where all of your calling, your job, your career, your role, your avocation, it all comes together. It's your ultimate calling, and it usually comes in later in life. So there you go. 6 words: job, careers, role, avocation, calling, destiny. We're not going to work on your destiny because you're just too young.
Wait, no, can we please focus on destiny?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I love that part. Like, I'm good on the career and the job thing, the destiny.
Well, let's put it this way. We're going to get there. You're going to get there in time. Mm-hmm. If you were my age, we'd be focusing mostly on destiny. Mm-hmm. But we need to get you to destiny. We need to talk about your calling.
Okay.
So let me use an illustration here to explain. This is a quilt. This actually happens to be my daughter's quilt. She made this in 2010. It's called a T-shirt quilt. Have you ever heard of it?
I have one. My wife made me one.
Your wife has one?
Okay. No, she has one and she made me one. So
she made you one?
Yes.
Okay. So this was my daughter. She made it in 2010, the year she graduated from IU, from Indiana University. And these are all T-shirts she owned. And she wanted to put it in one quilt so that she could get a picture of her life at 2010. This was a show. She was in theater. This was a show she was in. She was in Delta Gamma at IU. I'm not sure what that was. She was. This was also Delta Gamma. The bottom line is, if I would unwrap this whole thing and we would look at it, we could actually tell who my daughter is or was in 2010. We might even get an idea by looking at this what her calling was going to be. It's 5 years later. Actually, 2010, 6 years later, okay? What you don't see, because she made it in 2010, is that she went to work for General Mills in Cincinnati. She's now finishing up her MBA at Northwestern in Chicago, and in June starts to work for Tyson Foods. That's something you won't see here. But if we added those patches to the quilt and looked at it today, we'd get a much different picture of my daughter today than we did in 2010. So the same is true of you. We're going to actually work on your quilt, not literally your quilt. Here is an illustration of the quilt we're going to look on. We're going to try to figure out your life as it stands today. I gave you a piece of paper so you can actually take notes on this as well. So we're going to construct your life quilt. And when we're done, hopefully, I don't know how many of these we're going to fill in, but you'll be able to step back and go, okay, that's who I am right now. So let's start with, how long you been married?
It'll be 7 years.
7 years, so 7 years. And I'm going to be cryptic here. You can write whatever notes you want. You've been married 7 years. Married, your wife's name?
Erin.
Erin with a
E-R-I-N.
E-R-I-N.
Or darling, or my lovely lady, or my lovely darling
Gosh.
lady. She'll answer to any of them.
Every husband that, okay, never mind. 7 years, been married to Erin. Let's talk about your family. You're 34 years old. Where were you born?
I was born in Danville, just west of here.
Okay, and your parents, are they still alive?
My mom is alive and my dad is not.
Your dad's passed. Okay, and so when did your dad pass?
About a year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago. Now, did that have an impact on you did it really impact you in a deep way?
Massively.
Okay, so let's put that up here because that's going to play into your calling. So your dad passed away 2 years ago. 2 years ago?
Year and a half.
Okay.
Whatever.
Year and a half ago. Was your dad important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that.
My dad was my best friend. We worked together for 12 years. I graduated from Taylor, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go be a stockbroker. And he said, awesome, go do whatever you want to do. And meanwhile, we had 2 people who quit. And so I said, like, here, I'll just come work for you. And he said, sure. Well, if
So
you're going to do that.
this was your dad's business?
Yeah, it's a family business.
Okay, so this is huge. Don't forget to write this down because not only was your dad your best friend, okay, did you feel like you needed to take that business and run it for him once he passed?
Well, that's an interesting question. I felt a duty to my mom to make sure I kept it going, but I also was in a state emotionally where it was so painful to go into work. I didn't exactly know what to do. So we ended up selling it, and yeah, that's a tough one.
So pay attention to what's happening right now because emotional moments in our lives have play a huge part in our calling. Sometimes emotional moments lead us to run away from our calling. Sometimes they make us run toward our calling. Now, we're not going to arrive at the conclusion today, but I want you to pay careful attention to that. You have a great marriage. You're gonna be a dad. That's all good. Your mom, you close to your mom?
Absolutely.
Okay, you love your mom. She loves you. That's all good. You lost your dad. Huge. And it's played a part in what you do. Okay, so you're a business owner, right? Okay, so that's another. You like your business?
I love my business. Yes.
All right. Why do you love your business?
Why do I love my business? Okay, let me just, I want to be respectful of the time.
That's okay.
I'll keep it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Okay, here's the deal. So my favorite thing is the bulk of our contracts are schools. And I am who I am because of my mom and dad and my sister and my darling, lovely lady and my teachers. And so the fact of the matter that I get to go in and serve, or my team goes in and serves hundreds of teachers, providing them world-class service and making sure that they are cared for in a way that maybe they don't frequently feel. And that can be surveying them or other things. Sorry, that'll just take me in a whole different way. Okay. So basically making sure that teachers feel and are reminded that they are amazing and that they're valued, massively valued. I just feel that that's part of that's just what I love.
You know, why are we talking? I mean, for
know.
heaven's sake, you've got this whole thing figured out, right? But I'm only half kidding here. You just described to me, in words and emotion, a calling.
Yeah. And then there's the other part. Can I share the other part?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so then the fact that I take care of these 30 employees, sorry, I say employee, I never say employee. My goodness, see, it's a little bit of the nerves. But no, team members, my family, my 30 team members. What an incredible opportunity to serve and love them and treat them like no other employer ever will, and to remind them of how much they mean to me. And the list on ways to do that is endless, and that's what I love finding out, and that's what I love doing. Yeah.
Well, this is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to what you said about. Now we're talking a little bit about job and career. We're actually mixing some of your role in here too.
I find they all start to get.
It's all starting.
Oh,
okay.
Just in general for me. But.
Okay, so you mentioned these teachers. So most of your cleaning services with schools, you said.
95% of the contracts are.
What
with
is
schools.
it about the teachers that you're so passionate about?
So I received what I consider hands down the best education, possibly one of the best. I went to Covenant Christian High School. It was the second class. There was 36 of us. It was amazing, and the teachers, my teachers, and what they instilled in me, and how they pushed me, and the incredible grace that I saw, and the example that they witnessed to me was life-changing.
Okay.
To the point, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
To the point when I went to Taylor for 4 years, the people, my classmates at Taylor were saying the same thing that they felt when I finished from high school. I was like, I wish I would have gone somewhere else at the time. Now, I don't actually wish that because I met my lady there. But,
yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? You see it? It was that amazing.
Okay, so again, pay attention to this. This would be a life experience thing, your education and what people poured into your life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would put on here, to call it mentors is probably too light a thing, but I would say, here's what I'm sensing talking to you about this. Your mentors, the teachers, the people that have, and your father, you're like a sponge for people who loved you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now seeing your reaction to that tells me something about the thing you want to do for others.
Okay. Go for it.
Yeah, because I'm jumping ahead here, but you love your wife, you take the influence your dad had in your life, the way you look at your business, the way you see your team, combined with the way your mentors treated you, what it's birthing in you it's starting to feel like a calling.
Yes.
Right, okay. Let's keep going. Let's add to it.
Okay.
Because this has a lot to do with life experience. I'm going to move on. There's something else I want to ask, but I think just for the sake of time, I'm going to move on. Let's talk about the way you're wired.
The way I'm wired?
Okay?
Yep.
Now, okay. I asked you to take a test before this, and I happened to look at the results of the test ahead of time. It's called the Enneagram. Now, you've taken a bunch of tests in your life, personality tests, right?
Yep.
Taylor Johnson.
Disc and values.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've taken a bunch. You've never taken the Enneagram.
First time.
Okay. Your Enneagram, and I'm going to put this here. The Enneagram says you are a 7. Now, you've read enough about this to know that there are 9 numbers that describe personality. Let me read this out loud and see if you still agree with this, okay? The 7 values joyfulness more than anything else. You value variety and excitement. You want to celebrate life and experience as much of as you can. You want to fill the world with fun and delight. You're probably friendly and gregarious. You like to cheer people up. You may be an especially good storyteller. That's clear. It is likely you're creative and full of interesting ideas and that you enjoy planning new projects. So far, is this accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay. However, you may overindulge yourself in a constant effort to seek new highs and experiences.
From time to time.
All right. You find it easy to generate creative options that come up with imaginative schemes and plans. You can easily change course and try new things.
Yes.
Do you ever drive your team members crazy with this?
Well, I've learned to make sure that I'm very careful in what I do so that way I don't, because otherwise in the past I have.
Because it's almost, oh, we could do this, we could do, come on, all right.
Yep.
Okay, and they're like, okay. You find it easy to put your interests before your obligations so that you do not feel trapped or neglected.
Wait,
you find it easy to put your interests before your obligations, so that you don't want to feel trapped or neglected just by doing the same thing over and over again.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
You can intuitively discern the potential for a happy outcome in most situations. You know how to focus on the here and now. You can grab life right now and enjoy the most out of life.
I can take the orange of life and I can squeeze
it
every ounce out of it.
All right. So I read. I want you to read more because we're looking at the positive side.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a negative side to the 7.
Yep.
But already, I mean, you're a piece of cake, by the way, in figuring out calling. You take this, what I just described, combined with all this, and it starts to make sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Your calling. All right, let's go one step further.
To destiny?
No. Dude. Not yet. I ask you to take a spiritual gifts test.
Yes.
Okay. Now, spiritual gifts, I believe, you're not just wired a certain way. God said, by the way, when did you decide to follow Christ?
I'll keep it super brief. I owe that one all to my mama. I was the age of 4, and she said, hey, someday you'll want to accept Christ. And I said, why not right now? So she's like, let me get Dad. Boom.
Boom. Done. Drop the mic. Jesus in your heart. Okay. So I'm going to put that up here. You're a long-time believer. Faith came somewhat easily to you, yep. Right? That's important. You haven't wrestled much with your understanding of God, have you?
No.
Okay, again, this comes from the positive, this is the way I am, I move ahead with life, I feel the joy. That's a part of your calling too. Okay? You're not you don't have much angst.
No.
Okay. Let's talk about spiritual gifts. So when you decided at the young age of 4, God said, well, here's what I'm going to give this cat some abilities, some special Holy Spirit gifted abilities to do things. And I ask you to take the test. What are they?
The top 3 are giving.
Giving.
Number 2 is faith. And number 3 is administration.
Okay. Okay. Not surprised, not surprised, not surprised. Because what you've described so far is that I think God is taking your wiring and he's mixing it together with these special gifts. Now, giving is not just financial.
Right.
Okay, there's a big component of that, and my guess is you're probably a generous person. Overall, probably generous financially, you're generous with your time, you're generous with your heart.
Absolutely.
Okay? Faith, again, I said this just a few minutes ago. You don't have a lot of angst. You believe God.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then there's this business of administration. You have the ability to pull things together and say, we're going to move in this direction. All right. Let's add a few more things to it.
Okay.
The 6 broken places. You know, we talk about this at Grace. We talk about the isolation, separation from God, injustice, what are the others? Pain, decay, and hatred.
Yes.
Okay. Now, those are the ways that the world is broken. Of those 6, does any one stand out above the others and you say, that one makes my blood boil or that one gets me upset?
Isolation.
I'm sorry?
Isolation.
Isolation. Talk to me about that.
Okay, so here's my thought. I'm troubled by it because, you know, that definition in the way of discipleship, human beings are alone and lacking loving relationships. When I look at what that means, okay, there's an infinite supply of love that we can give. And so the fact that there is plenty of resources to meet that need seems crazy to me. And so, you know, so there you go.
If it makes, when you hear somebody say, I'm lonely, you go,
Yeah.
what can we do to meet that need?
Yeah.
Have you always felt this way?
Yeah. Mama. That's from Mom.
Okay, so when you were a kid in school, did you not like it when somebody was left out?
Yeah.
That
right.
would bother you? Okay. How many friendships do you have? Lots or a little?
I would say I have a fair amount of acquaintances, but true friendships, I have a handful that are very near and dear to my heart.
Okay, and it's important to you to maintain those relationships.
Absolutely.
Have you experimented at all with acting on your passion about isolation? Have you done anything maybe to actively work on that with other people?
Maybe
like
elaborate.
certain, are there any ministries or here at Grace or outside that you said, that really scratches my itch, and that helps me go after this thing of isolation?
I guess there are a handful. I've volunteered at Shepherd before, or Circle City Relief. But I guess I should say or on mission trips. But for me, when I think of isolation, I view it as every single day, every person I come into contact with, there's an opportunity to love on them, no matter what the situation is.
Okay, and you're parlaying your passion about dealing with this broken place with the way you deal with your team.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Coupled with the generosity of spirit and your trusting God for their life.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop right here. And you can write these down later. We could go further. And again, if you and I had an hour, I would probe, I would talk about your past a little bit more. But for now, we're going to leave it there.
Okay.
What I want you to do is I want you to take all these things. This right here is a 34, you can take a picture of it.
I'm sorry, I want to be respectful.
No, go ahead. You can
All right.
take a picture of it. That's perfectly fine.
Oh.
Now, you are so anxious to know your destiny. Okay, so let me just say, this right here is a 34-year-old's quilt, life quilt, right here. If it were mine, it would look different than this. But it would have this.
Right.
That is a destiny. Do you see the difference?
I think so. Do we have time? I know we're limited on time.
That's okay, go ahead.
But I'd like to just touch on the destiny part first.
Yeah, sure.
So may I share the part of it that I feel like I've got figured out, which I'm super grateful to God for, and then you can kind of, I don't want to like hijack your thing here though.
No, it's fine, go.
So here's what I'm really clear on, is like I remember being a kid, and specifically I have this memory of being in Boston. I'm in the van with my band, and we're playing the show, and I'm just like, God, just hit me over the head with the 2x4 of purpose and destiny. I want to know what I'm supposed to do. And there are these moments that consistently show up in my life where it's just that crying and just being like, God, if you would just tell me what to do, I would do it. I would do it.
You felt like he told you?
No. Just being honest. But here's what I figured out.
Okay.
But here's the thing, in all seriousness. When I think about my dad and losing my dad, which is the single hardest thing I've ever gone through.
Yeah.
And when I think of my dad, I think of, I mean, the thing I'm trying to do is, we call, God, Father, obviously, I'm saying. I'm just thinking, help me out here a second.
Okay.
When I think about my dad, I think my dad, if I were doing that same thing to him, I'd be like, Dad, would you just tell me what you want me to do with my life? Just tell me and I'll do it. My dad's going to say, Josh.
Yeah.
He's not going to say I don't care, but he's going to say, love the Lord, honor your family, treat people with respect and kindness, and be involved in community. And outside of a few different things, he's just pretty much cool with whatever I did, whether I was a stockbroker or a musician making $0 in a van or owning my own company or working for him. And so my thought is, if there's some version of this, tell me if I'm
okay.
on the wrong point here, wrong track here. But if I can view that with God, and if that's the case, then that's where I'm at right now, and I just feel amazingly peaceful about the whole thing. Because if that's the case, then I think of the Micah, I'm blanking on the verse, but he's shown you what to do, act honorably, love justice.
And mercy.
Mercy.
Yeah.
And
he walk justly with
yeah.
your God, yeah.
So if that's the case, then, or I should say, that's what I'm choosing to really focus on right now, which means everything else is just, whatever I do, I feel such joy.
Absolutely. And you just said the key words. Focus on right now.
Yeah.
Okay? That's all God's going to hold you responsible for is to focus on right now.
Yeah.
Okay? So this right here, with the loss of your dad being a linchpin.
Yep. Absolutely.
There's no way to know what your life would be like if your dad had not passed. Okay?
Right.
You could guess, but you don't know. That's a key moment in your life. You can take that and all these ways that God's wired you and gifted you, and you can know what to do right now. Now, let me tell you something. You don't know what this is. You don't.
Okay.
This, whatever this is, may change the trajectory of your life.
Okay.
And when it happens, then you add that and all this, and you decide to do what I need to right now.
Sorry?
Does this make sense?
It does. You're saying that next blank is just whatever the next thing is.
I don't know what's going to happen to you tomorrow.
Right. I see.
Or a year from now.
Because we're building the quilt.
We're building the quilt.
Yep.
6 months from now, you and I could sit down. Actually, it'd be a good exercise to sit down and do the 6 months from now, a year from now, and add pieces to the quilt. And then I would say to you, Josh, now that we know these other pieces, let me go back to my daughter. This is a picture of my daughter. This is not who she is now. There were 6 years after this. It completely reshuffled her life. The same may be true of you, or we may get a year down the road and nothing's changed. You just focus on what God called you to right now. All I'm saying is that year after year after year, you analyze it again, you get the quilt out again, you go through this again every year. Every single person should do this every year. Now what? A year from now, you're 35. Now what? A year from now, 36. Now what? By the time you hit 60, and you've been doing this for a couple of dozen years, you have a pretty good idea what your destiny is.
Okay. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How do I speed it up? Now by that, no.
Guess what? You don't.
I'm with you.
You don't speed it up, Josh. You take it one moment at a time. Your calling is where you are right now. A year from now,
calling is
what you should do right now. The key is not to figure out what your calling is 5 years from now. We don't know what's coming in your life.
Right.
The key is to figure out what my calling is right now. And I think you, as much as anybody I've talked to, you know what your calling is right now.
Yeah.
So you throw yourself into that. You love those team members. You continue to create a business that's going to touch people's lives.
Yeah.
You figure out a way to deal with isolation. You should open up your mind and say, God, what do you want me to do? If I'm so worked up about this, what do you want me to do about it? How do I function in this world as a 7 in the Enneagram? How do I work? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You have enough to go on for now?
Yeah. How much time? Can I ask you some questions?
Not right now. We got to end this. We got to end this.
All right.
All right, Josh. Thank you. Would you thank Josh for being part of this?